Orange light moved across the cargo hold ceiling in a way that had no right to exist. Every system on the ship was dead. Every circuit, every backup, every panel cold and black. Commander Thesic stood in the doorway, his damaged antenna tilting involuntarily toward the impossible glow. In the center of the hold, a human crouched over a pile of packing material, a rock in each hand, and between them something burning. If that image made you hold your breath, you're already one of us. I subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. The warmth could almost be felt on the plates of his face, even from the doorway. A ghost of the ship's heating, maybe. Except no. The last time real warmth had touched his skin was 6 hours ago, when the Ven 4 still had power. And the geologist's biggest problem? Forgetting rock samples in his jacket during laundry cycles. The mission had been classified as routine, a 3-day mineral assessment run through a charted asteroid belt. Crew of 4, commanding Callus on engineering, 1 pilot, and the human Ren Collie, station geologist 31, lean, with weathered hands always reaching into sample crates or turning fragments of or under the corridor lights. His file marked him competent, quiet, no disciplinary flags. What it did not mention was the collecting. Day 1, Collie cataloged his mineral haul from the belt scans: quartz, iron, pyrite, magnetite, and then pocketed a chunk of dark flint because, in his words, it was a nice specimen. Thesic had watched him thumb its smooth face during the evening brief, rolling it between fingers cracked with old calluses. A geologist who carried rocks like personal effects. Odd but irrelevant. The ship ran on digital infrastructure, navigation, heating, oxygen cycling, lighting, all routed through electromagnetic systems. Redundant backups, emergency failsafes, all electromagnetic. The Ven 4 was by Vathy engineering standards triple insulated against system failure. Then hour 37. The pulse. An uncharted electromagnetic anomaly so massive it registered on nothing because, by the time it could have, every sensor was already dead. Total system kill. Primary power, backup, emergency, navigation, heating, lighting, everything collapsed. Corridor panels didn't flicker. They simply ceased to function. One moment Thesic was reviewing scan logs, the next, he was standing in absolute darkness, the only sounds his own respiration and the faint tick of the hull contracting as heat bled into space. 3 degrees per hour. Yes, Sick calculated it within 40 minutes using a manual optical thermometer, one of 2 non-electronic instruments aboard. Ship interior would cross -8 degrees Celsius within 6 hours. Hypothermia onset, -8 degrees Celsius. Rescue signal had been passive broadcast before the pulse. Response time, 14 hours. The math was not survivable. If you want to know how a man with 2 rocks in a dead ship rewrote that math, subscribe because the story is just getting started. For hours after the pulse, -2 degrees Celsius and dropping. Callus had exhausted every restart protocol in the engineering manual, then improvised 6 more. Nothing. The young engineer's hands began to tremble, not from cold, but from the understanding that every simulation, every diagnostic framework, every bit of his training had been built on systems that no longer existed. His breath came in sharp, visible bursts. He compensated. He always compensated. His missing antenna made spatial data unreliable, so he defaulted to numbers, procedures, and problem architecture he could measure. He found no solution in any system he knew. Ren had been quiet since hour 2, moving through the cargo hold with a patience initially mistaken for shock. He opened sample boxes, turned over chunks of or set some aside, discarded others, methodical, unhurried, as if the dropping temperature were someone else's problem. Callus pressed close to the optical viewing port beside Thesic, mandibles tight. "What is the human doing?" he whispered. Ren extracted the dark flint from his jacket pocket, the nice specimen, and set it on the floor. Then he reached into sample box 7 and retrieved a piece of steel bearing or he gathered packing material, dry cellulose fiber, and arranged it in a small mound between his knees. "Is he arranging rocks?" Callus asked. Ren struck the flint against the steel or sparks flew, scattering across the packing material. Callus flinched so hard his shoulder hit the bulkhead. Second strike, more sparks. The cellulose smoldered at one edge. Third strike, the packing material caught. A small tongue of orange curled upward, feeding on the dry fibers. A flame with a steady hunger that had nothing to do with circuitry, power cells, or any system the Ven 4 had ever carried. Actual, physical flame. Combustion happening in real time on the floor of a dead ship. Training data tried to categorize it. Failed. Tried again. Fuel source, Organic cellulose. Oxidizer. The ship's atmospheric oxygen still circulating via passive pressure differential. Ignition. Thermal energy from mechanical friction between flint and high-carbon steel. Sparks at approximately 800 degrees Celsius from the shearing of microscopic metal particles. No electromagnetic component, no digital interface. The reaction predated circuits, the Vathy species, every known technology in the galactic record. The Vathy had no cultural memory of fire. Their species evolved in a low-oxygen atmosphere. Combustion had never been viable on their homeworld. They had moved directly from geothermal venting to electromagnetic energy capture. Fire was a translated word, borrowed from species who had crawled out of caves with burning sticks in their fists. They had studied it in theory. Now Vathy watched it in practice. Not theory, not data. Watching a man warm his hands over something. The cargo hold was warming, not fast, but the thermometer confirmed it. The air nearest the flame had stopped dropping. Callus crept closer, mandibles slack, frost forming on his shoulder plates. Neither spoke for a long time. The fire crackled. It was the only sound on the ship that wasn't the hull ticking or their own breathing. Ren fed it carefully, more packing material, a strip of cargo netting. He built the flame like tactical assessments, methodically, with an eye on resources and burn rate. His hands moved with familiarity beyond training. This was something deeper, something inherited. Callus stepped into the hold. The heat touched his faceplates first, real warmth. Not sensors, but nerve endings rarely trusted. He stopped 3 paces from the fire and looked down at the man crouching beside it. "Mr. Collie," he said, voice steady. "How did you create energy from mineral samples?" Ren looked up, his face lit orange from below, shadows pooling in his cheek hollows. No triumph, no pride, just the mild confusion of someone asked to explain breathing. "Create energy?" He blinked. I just hit 2 rocks together. And now, standing in that same cargo hold, the same orange light cutting across the same dead panels, they understood the sentence was not simple. It summarized something so old it had no origin file, no patent, no version history, a technology that could not be updated because it had never needed to be. He began composing his post-rescue report before the rescue had arrived. The tactical note wrote itself. The electromagnetic pulse had been total. It had killed every system on the Ven 4. Every backup, every redundancy, every failsafe built on 2,000 years of Vathy engineering had failed against 2 rocks from a geologist's jacket pocket. Vathy typed on a manual transcription pad, one of 2 non-electronic tools aboard, choosing words as if rewriting doctrine. Human survival technology was not exclusively digital. Their species retained functional knowledge of pre-electromagnetic methods that could not be pulsed, jammed, or disabled by any known countermeasure. They operated on thermodynamics, not engineering. Current EMP doctrine assumed technology dependency. Humans were not technology dependent. They were technology optional. He underlined the last 2 words twice. The rescue shuttle docked 20 minutes later. The crew evacuated. All 4 alive, core temperature stable. Ren was the last to leave the cargo hold. He paused in the doorway, the same doorway, and looked back. The fire was out. Stamped out according to campfire rules learned from his father at age 6. The hold was cold again, dark again, dead again. But on the floor, in a circle of pale ash where the packing material had burned down to nothing, 2 rocks sat side by side. One flint, one steel ore, still warm to the touch, still capable, waiting for no system, no signal, no permission. Just the next pair of hands old enough to remember what the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. So what would you have done in that dead ship? Would you have remembered the oldest trick your species ever learned? Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.